It is September the 12th, 2022. I'm going to set out some boundaries because these videos, these presentations, public service announcements is what they are. They go up on social media. And because I'm a woman who knows the truth, therefore speaks the truth, I am offensive. So I am invoking my rights under the Act for the Preservation and Enhancement of Multiculturalism in Canada. Whereas the Constitution of Canada provides every individual is equal before and under the law and has the right to the equal protection and benefit of the law without discrimination. Everyone has the freedom of conscience, peaceful assembly and association, and guarantees those rights and freedoms equally to all people. Whereas the Constitution of Canada recognizes the importance of preserving and enhancing the multicultural heritages of Canadians. I do not identify as a Canadian citizen. I do not identify as a human, so I will not be utilizing the Citizenship Act or the Canadian Human Rights Act. However, I do stand on my rights under the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, which convention recognizes that all of my peculiar people are equal before the law and are entitled to equal protection of the law against any discrimination and against any incitement to discrimination, and to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which covenant provides that my peculiar people who belong to an ethnic and linguistic minority shall not be denied my right to enjoy my own culture or to use my own language. Also, under the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, Article 5, apparently, I am supposed to have the right to equal treatment before the tribunals and all other organs administering justice. Apparently, I have the right to security and protection by the province of British Columbia against violence or bodily harm, whether inflicted by government officials or any individual, group, or institution. Apparently, under Part C, I have the right to take part in the government, aka satanic cult, as well as in the conduct of public affairs at any level and to have equal access to public services. Other civil rights I apparently have are the right to freedom of movement and residence, the right to leave any country, including this one, and return to one's own country. I have the right to own property alone. I have the right to inherit. I have the right to freedom of thought and conscience. And I have the right to freedom of expression. And I do not have an opinion. I do not have an opinion. I do not speak in opinions. The truth is not an opinion. So I have written a document filled with the truth, as I'm constantly doing, despite the fact that I can barely move, from decades of hate, decades of racism, decades of racial profiling, decades of acts of war and genocide committed against myself and mine, in order to literally, it's a soft blow assassination, right? It's just constant blows. Constant blows I deal with from these animals, these savages, these humans acting as public servants. So I'm going to go through this right now because the truth must be spoken and justice must be served. And it's going to be served one way or the other, whether the witches who have attacked me like it or not. So what you need to understand about life is everyone has their name and their life written in the scriptures. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you are. Your name and your life is written throughout the scriptures. You are either a child of the Most High or you're a child of the Most Low. Now, it has been prophesied by my people, my peculiar people. We are peculiar because our eyes see and our ears hear, and that's why we are hated by the world. We are of the living, surrounded by the dead. The dead. That's who I'm surrounded by, the dead. So my brother Jeremiah prophesies, evildoers deceive their neighbors and do not speak the truth. They have taught their tongues to speak lies. They, of course, because you're not going to be listing these creatures names, that would be impossible. So it's generalizations. So they are BC bar members, or any bar member anywhere for that matter, weary themselves committing wrongdoing. Micah 2:2, when you the guilty want a piece of land, you find a way to seize it. When you the guilty want someone's house, you witches take it by fraud and violence. You compulsive liars cheat me, a woman, of my property, and you stole $750,000 from me, leave me homeless and destitute, exactly as Micah prophesied. My brother prophesies in Mark 12:40. They, guilty, arrogant abominations, named and shamed in this deposition, devour widows' houses and say long prayers. And what's being referred to there are these alleged court hearings that they hold. That's what's being referred to by my brother. To cover it up, right? That's how they're covering up their acts of war and genocide against me, having these court hearings. See, these witches will receive greater condemnation. So when I go into a court hearing, they clear out the courtroom every single time. They will not allow any witnesses in that courtroom. They refuse to allow you, their victim, to record what they're doing to you because they own the recorder. And they constantly either erase part of the recording, speak over what they've already said to you, and so that's why you're not permitted to go into the whorehouse and have a recording of what they're doing to you. You also need to know that if you purchase the court transcript, these witches who have just committed acts of basically barratry against you, to murder you, have right to not only erase what they've said to you, they have the right to refuse you the transcript after you've paid for it. After you've paid for it, these witches, acting as the court, go in, and if they've committed crime against you, they erase that from the record. I'm not even joking. I speak nothing that is false. If you don't believe me, you go do the research, because the research and the proof of what I just spoke is everywhere. So, organized gang stalking, that's what I'm dealing with. So these Masonic mockers have organized satanic rituals that they call provincial court hearings. So mockers, also called scoffers in Scripture, defy and renounce truth and good things, not only to their own detriment and destruction, but that of others. They are provokers of others to wrong, strife, and evil. So I have survived continual multiple acts of genocide. To transfer children from one group to another group according to these savages' rules is an act of genocide. Now these savages have come in, lied their faces off to steal my home so they could facilitate money laundering through the corrupt BC real estate industry. So I do a lot of research because when something like this is happening to me, my concern is this happening to anyone else? Like, am I the only one that this is happening to? Is it? So what I do is, to try to stay stable, is I go in and I do research, and I research what's going on. And it turns out that twice a week across Canada, a mortgage-free property is being stolen from the lawful legal owner by bankers and bar members, because really, who would have access to the property other than these liars? That's who's stealing these homes. And it doesn't matter if you run it through one of these fucking whorehouses that they're trying to pass off as a courthouse. You go in there and tell the truth, you will lose. You will lose. I went in there over a half dozen times fighting for my house. I told the truth every single time, and every single time I was satanically, ritually abused by a witch pretending to be the court. A compulsive lying, mind-spinning, arrogant ape with no hope and no future. So as we can see here, ComfortLife.ca is claiming that First Canadian Title, a title insurance company, estimates that mortgage fraud in Canada has surpassed $100 million in total value. Real estate or title fraud happens about twice a week in Canada. So real estate fraud occurs when the thief obtains the title of your property through fraudulent transfer document. Well, that's exactly what CIBC agents, because there is no such thing as CIBC. Let's just make that clear right here, right now. I'm not dealing with a dead entity. I'm dealing with these arrogant ape abominations who pretend to be CIBC, who pretend to be CIBC solicitors, who pretend to be the court. So the fraud artists will target your house, forge the transfer deed, and then register the title on the property in their name. Well, that's exactly what CIBC slimy solicitors did from Kamloops. Their names are Hal Hicks, their names are Graham Mack, their names are Daniel Carroll, and the Coven. And the Coven as acting as Fulton and Company in Kamloops, BC. And now what you need to know is all of this has been prophesied by my peculiar people. Isaiah is one of the peculiar people. Micah is one of the peculiar people. And so we can see here quite plainly that exactly what's prophesied about these satanic savages is exactly how they act. They follow the script. It's scripture. So Financial Post. So the top facilitators of the laundered money are lawyers and real estate agents. Well, right, exactly. That's exactly who stole my house. So all these fucking pigs, all these wicked, wicked pigs could feast off of my inheritance. Because when you're a witch, there's never enough for you. There's never enough. Never when you're a witch. So real estate agents are zero-talented liars that contribute nothing to society, and that would be the truth. That would be the truth of who they are and what they are. So how do criminals launder money through real estate transactions? Because that's exactly why my home was stolen from me. My home was stolen to facilitate money laundering in the province of British Columbia. And it's all, I mean, I'm not going to punch any of the addresses I have on here. I'm just going to go through this. Because I have to, right? Because I can't allow one of the blind and one of the deaf to read this and expect them to understand the truth of what I'm saying, because I'm a truth teller. So when I speak to them like this, their minds just spin, right? Their minds just spin. They don't know what to do with the truth because they're not of the truth. So large amounts paid for real estate make it an attractive option for laundering proceeds of crime. So by paying a mortgage down with illegitimate funds, criminals try to turn illegal proceeds into legitimate equity in real estate. Right, exactly. Exactly. Money laundering in real estate transactions. This is from another website. Money laundering and its effects corrode the very fabric of society. It impacts all spheres of a functioning democratic society, political and civil, social and economic. It damages the quality of life of residents of the countries, provinces, and cities where it is prevalent. What you have to know is those who are against the money laundering are the ones who are laundering the money. That's how it works here. I know all about the truth. And so here you've got a straight.com. This Travis Lippick, he's claiming that there's 1 in 5 BC citizens' emails to the province about real estate express racism towards Asians. No, that's not true at all, actually. There's many in the province here who are concerned with what they see happening. And so they're saying something because they have an obligation, duty, and responsibility to do so. That's why they're saying something. Because something's wrong here. And no one acting as a public servant is doing anything about it. Because those pigs get their paycheck every 2 weeks, whether they do their job or not. And that's the truth. And they all falsely believe that they're above the law. So then what you have here is you have all of these reports. These are reports. Property sales spike sparks money laundering fears. The flow of money from China to BC. Vancouver, now I've added Victoria because this is happening here, became a byword for money laundering fueled by Chinese cash. Yeah, 3-year report reveals vast scale of money laundering in BC. BC lawyer facing money laundering charges. Well, I tell you what, every single liar with a bar card in BC here who was aided and abetted the theft of my home to facilitate money laundering, yeah, I'm afraid they're facing criminal charges, and I'm afraid I'm their prosecutor, because in my culture, the victim of the crime is the prosecutor. We never hand that job over to someone else. In the king's court, and I'm not referring to that thing now that is trying to pass itself off as a king. It's not. That's not a king. I belong to the King of Kings. and he is the judge. And in King's Court, there's always two sitting on the bench. Always two. There's the King of Kings sitting there, and then there's one of his Levite priests sitting there. I identify correctly as one of the Levites because that's exactly who I am and that's exactly what I am, and I know exactly who and what I am. I haven't gone through this much hell to not have learned not only who I am, what I am, but who sent me here and what he's asked me to do for him. So the theft of untouchable interest private properties to facilitate money laundering. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what's happening here. And none of these pigs are doing anything about it because their hatred for me is so intense, that they literally they're in the process of murdering me right now. You're listening to a murder in progress. So I'm building a criminal case against each and every one of these pigs, which is why I now audio record every phone call and every interaction with them, because I'm laying criminal charges because I have to. Because if I don't stop what's happening here, it's going to dial right out of control like it already has dialed right out of control. Do you understand that? Because all these bar members, they're all friends. They're all friends. They don't go against each other. They're all friends. They're all on the same team. So proof positive persons acting as, because you understand that, right? These labels, these titles that they give themselves are nothing but a smokescreen. It's a fiction. It's a fraud. David Eby is not an attorney general. David Eby is an indictable crime-committing criminal. That's what that thing is. It's completely incompetent. Completely. Like they all are, right? That's why they're sitting there, hiding behind these ridiculous titles. They're useless, incompetent, and incapables. As reading this article with eyes that see and ears that hear, these idiots are just full of excuses for their self-admitted sheer incompetence, constantly blaming the system that they, the mad, blind, confused, mindless monkeys, created. So Canada needs U.S.-style racketeering laws, current organized crime laws, failing. BCAG tells feds. Okay, hold on here. There's no such thing as the system. The system is made up of these savages, these arrogant ape abominations. There is no such thing as the system. So when you hear crap like, the system is failing, no. It's the Walking Dead who pretend to be those systems. That's the problem. That's the problem. These are heathens. These are heathens, right? They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. I know. I try to fucking have a conversation with them constantly. And they literally look at me like, what is she talking about? Well, fuck, you're never going to know what I'm talking about because you're one of the dead and I'm one of the living. So there would be no communication between us. There's going to be no meeting of the minds between us. So CIBC is a RICO. Do you understand that, right? Racketeering, influenced, and corrupt organization. That's exactly what every bank is in Canada. So they've stolen my untouchable private property to facilitate fraud, a number of null and void mortgages to assist money laundering, and obviously an out-of-control issue in BC. So a couple of Asians could launder $750,000. And of course, I've had experiences. I used to be involved with an individual who was born and raised in Hong Kong, arrived here in Canada at 18, and has lived here ever since, him and his family. So I know about that culture because I spent years with one of that culture. I don't open my mouth unless I know what I'm talking about. I would never do that. I'm not going to waste your time, and I certainly am not going to waste mine. So you have to understand that culture is about one thing and one thing only, and that's Leviathan. Go through your scriptures. Leviathan is your money system. Leviathan is your currency system. That's what that is. It's the sea monster, right? And what does my brother tell you? No one can serve two masters. Either they will hate the one and love the other, or they will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both truth and Leviathan. And that's what the Asians are all about. So, of course, I go onto my property and I'm collecting evidence, right? And I know I'm being watched. they're watching me, right? Because they're trying to set up a situation where they can abduct me, they can kidnap me. And while I will be in pig custody, I will be murdered by the pigs. And then the pigs will say something stupid like, died of medical distress. It just happened here in Canada with someone else that they took into custody. And then they claim, due to medical distress, this individual passed away. You understand all these code words that they use for, like, murdering someone? Just like when they stole the $750,000 from me, the code words were, we're going to pay it into court. Oh, fuck are ya? Oh, fucking lovely. So I go on, right? So, I've gone and I've reported this, but they don't care, right? The law enforcement are on the side of the criminals. They're never on the side of the victim, because that would be right thinking and right doing. And they're not about right thinking, and they're not about right doing. That's why they're called pigs. You get that? Never trust a pig, ever. Ever. I don't care who they are. Never trust a pig. I'm telling you that from years of experience. Because, by the way, when my son was kidnapped and chosen immediately to be trafficked to BC's pedophiles, because who else would buy an 8-year-old child? Who else would buy an 8-year-old child? They're selling them here in BC for $40,000 to $50,000. Children that they've kidnapped from loving, healthy families. And those are the children that are highly marketable, and those are the children that never go home. Go ahead, do the research if you think I'm telling you something that's not true. So because time has passed between my home being stolen, right, and what's gone on my property since it's been stolen. So November 28th, 1 year to the day of the theft of my property, the two agents who have that property have put it up for sale. Because they've just laundered $750,000. And it doesn't make any sense, because they purchased my stolen property. Well, they allegedly purchased it. They never have title. They don't have title on my home because it was stolen from me. They purchased the house for $680,000. Right? That $680,000, close to $750,000, it was embezzled by CIBC solicitors, who then divvied it up amongst all their friends. Left me with nothing of everything my spouse and I worked to have over our 20-year relationship. So here's what's weird. So according to my expert calculations from being on my property, so the two Asians may have spent between $40,000 to $50,000 in upgrades. Because, I've got all the documents and I know how much closing costs are. So, provided by racketeering criminals acting as CIBC and CIB solicitors is about $40,000. So, the two Asians are into my stolen property for about $770,000 to $780,000, maybe $800,000. But they accept a lowball offer of $749,000 after they've listed the house for $850,000. But they've taken $749,000 from their partners in crime, a.k.a. Halfam Holdings of Victoria, BC. So then I go on, because what is racketeering? Do you know what racketeering is? So racketeering is the act of acquiring a business through illegal activity. Well, that's exactly what Halfam Holdings has done. Halfam Holdings has acquired a business because they've turned my single-family dwelling into a commercial property, their business, and they're in possession of stolen property. So they're using that business, Halfam Holdings, to commit illegal acts. They're in possession of stolen property. That's stolen property. I don't care who the fuck you are or what the fuck you are. That's never going to change. That's never going to change. They did what they did. So Asians are about worshiping mammon. Asians do not purchase real estate to lose money. That makes no sense. No sense at all. Within 2 weeks of putting up for sale my stolen property for $850,000, these two Asians are losing profit by accepting $100,000 less from partners in crime, Benjamin Howe and Sandra Dennis. So December the 16th, 2021, Greer Jacks, an indictable crime-committing criminal, a BC bar member, is filing fraudulent title into Victoria Land Title Office with assistance of, did not do her due diligence, Kirsten Martin. Therefore, Miss Martin continually seeks to distance itself and its clear culpability in these extremely serious criminal matters. Right? Because every time I contact these savages, they don't want to deal with this. And they don't think that justice is going to be served, and they don't think that I'm going to lay criminal charges, which I have to do. I have to do that. I have to for the others that this is going to happen to, because if I don't do this, then there'll be no history then. There'll be no precedent-setting cases for these savages to think twice about what they're about to do to somebody else. That's my job down here, to make sure law and justice is served for victims of crime. And I'm going to teach every Canadian who is a victim of crime how to take care of these criminals myself, because you don't hand that job over to a liar. To a liar. If I went now and told what happened to me to a liar, and they took that into the whorehouse, one of these whorehouses here, trying to pass itself off as a courthouse, that's called hearsay. Hearsay is inadmissible in any court. But they do it constantly, don't they? You know what else is not permitted in a court? Is an opinion. An opinion is not permitted in a lawful court proceeding. No, sorry, that's not the way it works. So hey, listen, I arrived here at the end of June. And that's part of my personality. And so that information is important, because you better know who you're dealing with. That's why I continually teach everyone who I am and what I am, so you know who you're dealing with, because you need to know who you're dealing with. You don't want to cross me. You just don't. You cross me, you cross the one who sent me here, and that's the stupidest fucking thing you could ever do. You have literally fucking set up for yourself a fucking death penalty. So hey, warning, I'm a thinker. So make sure your shit adds up before I start calculating, because if you lie to me, fucker, I know exactly where you're lying, and I know exactly why you're lying. Right? Because look at this thing. Look at this male. Look at this arrogant. Look at this. What is this thing? What the fuck is this thing? So this is the thing that has committed indictable crime against me. So two others can now utilize my stolen property to make themselves thousands of dollars every month while I remain homeless and destitute. I have no money to live. Because you have to understand, I've just survived another act of genocide, and what you wouldn't understand is the level of trauma that causes. How much energy do you think a woman has who has been continually murdered? Murdered. I'm being murdered. That's what's happening to me. Well, because I had to figure out I had to go and apply to find out who had title on my stolen property, and I did that. So while I'm trying to survive being purposely rendered homeless and destitute, I've been raped multiple times, because you have to understand, I've been kicked out of my house March 19th, 2020, the beginning of COVID, and nothing is open and everything is shut down, and there's nowhere to go to get any type of help. There was nowhere for me to go. Nowhere. You couldn't go get a job. Everything was shut down. There's no way. So there was only one. I needed to keep a roof over my head. I'm used to living in a home for the last 17 years. You have to understand that. So what you have to understand about a lie is that when you lie to someone, it's no different than taking a baseball bat and slamming them over the head with it. That's why commandment number 9 is no lying. Because when you lie to somebody, that's literally like stabbing them in the heart. That's why, again, let me say it again, just in case you missed what I just said. That's why commandment number 9 is no lying. Because it is the most outrageous, egregious act of violence to tell a lie. That's why you don't lie. Except if you're a fucking BC bar member, and then that's your entire fucking native language, isn't it? Of course it is. So that's why I've got this on here, and what you need to know is that when you open up these links here, so Kirsten Martin, right, she puts this house up for sale, so this stupid bitch can't see what's happening here, There's this massive problem in BC with Asians laundering money, and it can't see what's going on here. Here's the thing, it didn't care. It wanted the money. It wanted the easy money. That's all it cared about. So Christian Martin's gone, and that thing has put my house up on multiple fucking websites. And when I looked at these photographs, what I saw was these two fucking Asians. They were in possession of my stolen property, and they were using my stolen property to stage my stolen house so they could launder $750,000 fucking dollars. How fucking disgusting is the world that I'm living in? How disgusting is this world that I'm living in? These are the days of Noah, by the way. If you're unaware of what time you're living in, these are the days of Noah, where the thoughts of these arrogant apes are continuously evil and to do wickedness. See what I mean? And check this out. Check this out. Now, they purchased the house for $749,000, but they've got it listed here. The declared value is $860,000. That drives up the prices of homes in the district of Saanich, because the district of Saanich, the witches acting as the district of Saanich, don't care about anything other than the money. And every time this happens, this drives up the property tax that they collect illegally. These satanic savages acting as the district of Saanich are only permitted to collect property tax on commercial property. Commercial property is the only property subject to property tax. And yet these witches demand that residential addresses pay them property tax, which is illegal. It's theft. Yeah, I do a lot of research, and I know who I'm dealing with. So, of course, I went down to Scotiabank and I said to this Jackie Seablum here, I actually spoke to this thing. This thing is absolutely just vile. And I said, hey, you got a null and void mortgage here on a property that's been stolen from me. It did not care. It did not care. It could have cared less that there's crime being committed. Doesn't care. This bitch just wants the money. Because what you understand is a bank doesn't loan a dime on a mortgage. Listen to me. A bank doesn't loan a dime on a mortgage. That's why no bank agent signs the mortgage con. They call it a mortgage contract? No, that's a mortgage con. And then these savages charge interest on what they haven't even lent. That's called extortion. That's called fraud, people. If I'm talking to any people, am I talking to any people? Or I'm only talking to humans, because there's a difference. Trust me, we're going to get into that. Don't you worry about it. So Corporation Canada and Province of B are proven as satanic cults. The same satanic cult that crucified my brother, well, they're doing the same thing to me, because history just repeats itself. And yeah, it's not right to favor the guilty to keep the innocent from receiving justice, and that's exactly what's happened to me every single time. Every single time. And the hatred for me it's beyond intense. The hatred that they have for me. So here we've got those acting as the federal government. Yeah, anti-money laundering bullshit. You know, they have all this garbage up on all these websites, and it's all smoke and mirrors. They don't care. They don't care that there's money laundering going on, because they're the ones benefiting from it all. What is the difference between money laundering and racketeering? One of the most common racketeering offenses is money laundering. In brief, it is the process of making funds generated from illegal activity appear to have been from a legitimate source. And yeah, listen, if you're not paying attention, then clearly that's why you have no beef. Because your eyes are blind, right? Your ears are deaf. But if your eyes see and your ears hear, the level of outrage that you experience, I'm crippled by my level of rage, actually. I'm crippled by it, because this isn't my rage. The rage I feel belongs to the one who sent me here. And it courses through my veins, and it's in the marrow of my bones. The level of evil. So, of course, here's the sick thing about Canada. This kind of crap happens all the time, right? There's others who've had their property stolen. So, of course, instead of just these savages doing the right thing, they want to jerk you off and jerk you around by all these heathen hamster wheels, satanic fucking systems that they've got set up for themselves where they're all making money, billable hours, But here's the deal. In April 2009, the BC Court of Appeal held that unless a mortgage is granted by the true owner, the mortgage is invalid and the owner's title will be returned to its original state. Well, right, so we already know what has to happen because it's already happened before. It's already happened before where someone's had a house stolen. And of course, instead of just the fucking savages doing the right thing and giving them their house back, you got to take these pukes to these fucking whorehouses. And lo and behold, they actually got it right. They got it right. Of course the house has to be returned. Of course the house has to be returned to the owner. I mean, fuck, come on. Here's the thing about CIBC. CIBC's they're doing this shit all the time. CIBC is one of the worst banks in Canada. They are so corrupt. Every agent I spoke to at CIBC was a compulsive liar. Sorry, let me correct myself. There was one young Asian that I was seeing every month at the Broadmead branch. And I'd go in there to do my business because I'm executor of the estate, because I'm the controller of the estate. So I was doing my job exactly as I should have been doing my job because I'm not an incompetent woman. I know what to do. I know what's going on. I'm not doing my work, despite the fact that I'm absolutely leveled. And I'd go in there to do something and we'd end up sitting there for an hour talking and whatnot, right? There was never a problem. It's actually, he's the one that taught me, basically, because I'm a woman with ears that hear, so I remember things, and I remember things for a reason. So when I was going in and out of there for monthly meetings to do my job, to get money out to pay bills or whatever I was doing, at one point, because there was so we had a mortgage on our home, and my spouse had mortgage insurance, like life insurance on the mortgage. So when he passed away, our mortgage was paid out, but there was a personal line of credit. That is not a mortgage, it's a personal line of credit, but it was attached to the house. So my spouse passed away in May 2017, and before the end of 2017, I had heard that CIBC agent tell me over 3 different months that $40,000 credit line, personal line of credit in his name only, it's in his name only, so I'm not responsible for it. And I was never once asked to pay it. Never once was I asked to pay that payment on that personal line of credit because it's not mine. And I now own everything. For 3 different months, that kid said to me, the $40,000 isn't showing on the account now. Do you know why? I do know why. A bank has an insurance policy on every single loan it issues, whether the loan is secured or unsecured. They have an insurance policy. So when my spouse passed away, for those 3 months in 2017, CIBC agents had applied to the insurance company and they had that $40,000 paid out. Then their slimy solicitors and them decided that I was an easy roll, that they could steal my house by claiming I owed that $40,000 credit line only in my spouse's name, which I don't. That's against the legal rules. What that's called in the industry, the banking industry, it's called double fisting. You get me? It's called double fisting. So not only have they gone to the insurance company and had that $40,000 personal line of credit paid out, then they're coming after me saying I owe that money that I don't owe. And if I don't pay within 2 weeks that $40,000, they're going to steal my house. And, well, eventually, they embezzled the entire inheritance from me, leaving me with nothing. And I never owed that money. I never owed that money at all. That's why I was never once asked to pay that bill. Never once after my spouse passed away was I asked to pay that personal line of credit. You see what's going on here? You see how the truth is so simple when I explain it to you? Believe me, I've become an expert on the fucking banking industry, and it is corrupt as a $3 bill. So, judges. And by the way, these things aren't judges. These are bought and paid for clerks. So CIBC Bank supports clients who break laws to buy Vancouver homes. Right, exactly. Exactly. All the proof is right in front of your fucking face. I'm just the woman who takes all the puzzle pieces and I put together the picture for you. I grab all the pieces of the puzzle, and I'm the one with a level of intelligence that is not normal, and I'm the woman who puts together what's really happening for you. And then I come and I tell it to you, so you can go tell it to others. So you don't get jacked like this. Because my main concern is always others. That's my main concern as a righteous woman, is what's happening to others. Okay, because now I'm having a major battle with this criminal named Corey Lamont at the Douglas Street branch, and I've recorded this savage attacking me when I asked him to reimburse me for bills that I had paid after they stole my house. So after they stole the house, all the household bills belonged to CIBC, not me. But to show you that I'm a righteous woman who pays my bills, I paid their bills with my survivor pension benefits to the tune of $7,200. And I've asked for that money back, and I've been told if I come down there and try to get that money, I'm going to be violently, viciously attacked. That's how I'm being treated by these fucking satanic savages acting as CIBC. And CIBC agents have a history of theft and dishonesty, as we can see right here from a post September 25th, 2019, that there's a Stony Creek agent who's been caught stealing millions of dollars from seniors and deceased customers. Well, that's exactly what they've done to me over here now. Now, this was happening in the East, and obviously those acting as law enforcement out there are not the same as the pigs out here in the West, because they know the house is stolen, and they don't care, and they're not going to do anything to help me, and they've told me that repeatedly. I've been viciously, violently attacked repeatedly by Victoria and Saanich pigs here, just because I went and reported this crime. Because they're not going to want to do what's right, because they're sick in the head, right? They're meant, when you're dealing with monsters. So let me show you, this is the first letter I got. This is the very first letter I got from this puke, this witch named Daniel Carroll from Kamloops, BC. I used to live in Kamloops, BC. So let me show you what's going on here. So there's the estate, there's my name, there's my address. So we all know where I live, right? But that's my stolen property. My spouse and I bought that property in 2003. January 2003, that's when we took possession. So listen to this. Your loan is in default and the full amount is due and payable. Excuse me? What loan are you talking about? I don't have a loan with CIBC. My spouse did. I don't have a loan with CIBC. What are you talking about? So right there, the motherfucker's caught lying. Sentence number 2, this fucking puke is lying its face off already. Then get this. And then this shitface goes on to say, automatic withdrawals from your account have been canceled. So it's essential that you call us before making any payment. Okay, hold on. So first of all, fuckface, there was automatic payments coming out of an account? Whose account were they coming out of? That personal line of credit was never an automatic payment. My spouse went in every month when he got the bill and made a personal payment inside a branch. There was never automatic payments coming out, withdrawals coming out of an account, because it fluctuated every month, the payment. The other thing is, if there was an automatic payment coming out of an account, who gave you authorization to shut that off? Because I didn't. You see what's happening here? You see how fucking stupid these fucking animals are? That's how fucking stupid they are. This fucking puke, within the first fucking paragraph, this fucking shitface is fucked. Because I'm going to prosecute this pig. And the first question I'm going to ask him is, you need to prove, what proof do you have that I have a loan with CIBC? What proof do you have? Because you need to show me some proof, because I never guaranteed any loans my spouse had with CIBC. And the legal rules state I'm not responsible for his loans. Besides the fact that at this point, I own that house outright, and it's a mortgage-free property, and that's why they're coming to steal it from me. Now, this is bribery. It's a form of racketeering. Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. And I've got kidnap here because my son was kidnapped, because that's also a form of racketeering. So do you see what's happening here? Do you see how stupid these witches are? This is how stupid they are. So before they've even gone into court and proven their claims, they've put my home into the bank's name so they can steal it from me. And so this is what you're looking at here. They've issued a fraudulent petition, litigation petition, into the land title registry before they've even proven their claim. So how can that be? Because that's backwards. And what I want you to notice is the names of the witches who are doing this to me. And I want you to go to waterwarcrimes.blogspot.com, because those are some of the individuals in BC here who have blown the lid off the level of corruption happening in these public service agencies trying to pass themselves off as like, well, I mean, what the fuck are they? Seriously. So then they've gone to the Victoria Land Title Office. See what I mean here? There's Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, right? Certificate of pending litigation. There's Daniel Carroll's name on this, and here's Gray Mac's name with the electronic signature. Now, I've got it here from ekb.com. Instances of title fraud are still rare in BC, but they are on the rise, possibly due to the soaring real estate prices in the lower mainland. As real estate prices increase, so does the size of the mortgages potentially exploited by fraudsters. See what's going on here? But I'm the liar, right? I don't know what I'm talking about, right? I'm blind, right? I'm deaf, right? Yeah. So there's nothing more disgusting to me than me telling the truth to these pigs and them turning around and telling me that I'm lying. Because that's an act of murder. That's an act of murder if you don't understand the law. We'll just stick with the 10 Commandments, okay? We'll just stick with the 10 Commandments. Oh, there's only 10. And if you don't understand them, you need to take yourself out. So, money laundering. Information on money laundering legislation. So, October 13th, 2021, well, the criminal code, they're claiming that establishes offenses on the possession of and dealing in the proceeds of crime, money laundering, and the financing of terrorism. So, possession and money laundering offenses. It's an offense under Section 354(1) of the Criminal Code to possess any property or the proceeds of any property knowing it was obtained by or derived from the commission of an indictable crime. So why are Sandra Dennis and Benjamin Howe, after I told them at the end of November 2021 that they're in possession of stolen property, why are they still in possession of that property? You know why? Because Victoria Police Department agents and Saanich Police Department agents hate me. They absolutely hate me. They've come to the door here multiple times and threatened my life. They roll up here in these satanic, demonic outfits, and they're armed and dangerous. I'm unarmed. I'm under 5'4". I'm not a large woman. We'd be considered petite in the fashion world. I don't have any weapons. I don't have any money to buy weapons. So why are they continually terrorizing me so I can't go home? And why won't they help me get the trespassers off my property? Because they hate me and they want me dead. That's why. So Section 462.31, the Criminal Code addresses money laundering. It's an offense to use, transfer, the possession of, send or deliver, transport, transmit, alter, dispose of, or otherwise deal with any property or the proceeds of property with intent to conceal or convert the property, knowing or believing that all or a part of the property was obtained directly or indirectly by the commission of a designated offense. Well, isn't that what I just explained to you? Isn't that what I just showed you happened? But there's not one pig in BC here acting as a BC Attorney General who's doing anything about what's been done to me. No, they're covering it all up. Section 462.3. 1. The Criminal Code defines as designated offense, often called a predicate offense, as any indictable offense under any act of Parliament other than offenses established by regulations. Designated offenses of peculiar interest to dealers include breach of trust, fraud, money laundering itself. Now that's exactly what CIBC agents and CIBC solicitors and actors as the court are guilty of. That's what they're guilty of. Yeah, I'm sorry. They're guilty. They've already committed the crime. The crimes have already been committed. There's nothing to talk about. It's charges, it's sentencing, and it's jail. Period. It's not fucking complicated. Well, and here's a picture of this fucking puke right here, Daniel Carroll. That's a witch. That's a male monster. That's an ape. Yeah, compulsive liar. Murderer, thief, destroyer. Listen, I got close to this thing in court to get a whiff. It didn't have a shower. It had been flown by CIBC from Kamloops to Victoria to steal my home. It hadn't had a shower. It was all greasy, grimy, and disgusting. And its breath smelled like literal shit. I'm not even kidding you. I wouldn't lie about something like that. I got nice and close to that thing, and I know it didn't know what I was doing. I know it didn't know that. That's what I was doing. I was getting a whiff of one of the dead. So torture, you understand what that is as an indictable crime? So, of course, every time I went into court, there was a miscarriage of justice because I was telling the truth, and they were all lying, and they knew they were lying. That's why they clear out the courtroom for me. And they put extra sheriffs in the room as well when I'm in there. Yep. You imagine. Seriously, that's how I'm treated. That's how much they hate me. Torture. Any act or omission by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted. Well, hey, why do you think I'm doing these videos? You realize, right, that this happened years ago, and for years I stayed silent. But now I'm not going to stay silent anymore. You have to understand that I had to. This is war, right? And there are rules of war. In rules of war, you have to make sure that your victim has their necessities of life provided for them, and they won't even do that for me. They won't even do that for me. No. That's how much they hate me. So, excellent. Breaking news. According to this website here, the Criminal Code of Canada applies to all individuals in each business, such as Rico CIBC, Rico Fulton and Company, Rico Cox Taylor, guilty of stealing interest private property to then embezzle the entire inheritance to facilitate Asian abominations, laundering $750,000 via fraudulent foreclosure. So partners in Rico crime, Benjamin Howe and Senator Dennis, can turn my single-family dwelling into a commercial rental property. That's what's happened. And by the way, I had prophesied this before it actually happened. If you don't think I am who I say I am. I don't make false claims. I'm sorry. I have to be blameless. I have to be. Or I can't be a prosecutor. I can't be King's Counsel if I'm not blameless. Do you understand that? So what are the criminal charges in Canada for money laundering? Well, offenses under 462.31, money laundering are hybrid. If prosecuted by indictment, the maximum penalty is 10 years incarceration. If prosecuted by summary conviction, maximum penalty is 2 years, less a day, and a $5,000 fine. So Canada's anti-money laundering and terrorist financing laws are primarily contained in two statutes, the Criminal Code and the Proceeds of Crime, Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Act. So what are the three main money laundering offenses? The principal money laundering offenses created by the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002 are the concealing offense, the arranging offense, and the acquisition, use, or possession offense. Now here's why this system doesn't work. I've just explained to you why the system doesn't work. It's a shit show. It's an absolute fucking shit show. It's all fucking convoluted and confused, and listen, just stick to the 10 Commandments. And it's not complicated at all. And by the way, in a legitimate law court, it's eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Yeah, I'm sorry. Nothing else is justice. Nothing else other than eye for eye, tooth for tooth is justice. You have to make the victim whole. The victim has a right to do to the criminal what the criminal has done to the victim, or that ain't justice. Period. You get me? Oh, look at Demon Daniel Carroll is guilty of criminal breach of trust. And basically, well, he impersonated me as the executor of the estate, right? He took over. He just took over. Ignored all of my spouse's will. You understand what a will is, right? It's a man or a woman's will. It's what they will. It's what they want. Will is want. Right? What is the king's will? You get me? So what do we have here? Let's see. So the Canadian Criminal Code contains the following criminal charges which apply for estate trustee misconduct. You've got Section 332 theft, Section 336 criminal breach of trust, Section 361 through 362 false pretenses, Section 366 forgery, and Sections 386 through 388 fraud. Just to get you started. So are Canadian banks privately owned? Apparently they are. That's a problem. So they're private for-profit corporations. They don't give a fuck about you or me. All they care about is the money. And they don't care how they get that money. If they have to murder you to get that money, they're going to do that, and they don't care. Because as we've heard, we've got Jeff Bevington telling me at the door of the Saanich Police Department, November 27th, 2021, that Saanich police agents don't go against bank agents. Yeah, I got them on record. I got them on record because I'm actually intelligent enough now to tape everything, to audio tape everything, because I'm building a case. Always building a case. Takes time to build a case. Okay, so obviously humans, monsters own these RICO abomination banks as these witches. A banker's a witch. They don't loan a dime on a mortgage. They don't. Come on, you guys have to know this. Yet they're stealing from the client by way of interest. For banker horse, enough is never enough, and these savages get off when they destroy a client who trusted these pukes. I know my spouse trusted them. Sure he did. Do you actually think he would have done business with them for year after year after year if he had thought for a second that they were going to pull this kind of ugliness? Of course not. So let's look at, so these are, I need to explain to you what RICO is because I don't know if you know. Criminals posing as the province of BC, Provincial Court of BC, members of the Lawless Society of BC, BC Attorney General, CIBC agents, RCMP agents, provincial police agents, are racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations. That's what RICO is. RICO means racketeer-influenced and corrupt organizations. So when you hear me say RICO, that's what I'm referring to. Murder, kidnapping, extortion. Robbery, bribery, dealing in obscene matter. They've got bribery twice. Theft, embezzlement, fraud, obstruction of justice, slavery, money laundering, commission of murder for hire, embezzlement, bankruptcy fraud or securities fraud, human smuggling, and acts of terrorism. Now, I have just described to you that those crimes have been committed against me. They are being committed against me right now. All of these crimes are being committed against me right now as I give this public deposition, this public service announcement. Well, let's look at here. Fraud over $5,000 involving a will, estate, or testamentary trust. Anyone who is charged with any offense of fraud over $5,000 in Canada is facing a potential maximum sentence of 14 years in prison. Cases that involve wills, powers of attorney, and other testamentary instruments attract special attention by the law. Okay, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. They don't give a fuck. They do not fucking care. They don't. All the agents of Victoria PD and all the agents of Saanich PD know. All the agents of District of Saanich know. What have they done? What have they done? They've gone out of their way to obstruct justice because of their racism and their hatred for me. Yep. So there's a link there. Lawyer stole $500,000 from a dead BC client's estate. That's a BC liar. They do it all the time. They do it all the time. They don't care. And by the way, the savages acting as the Lawless Society of BC, they don't do anything about this. They don't care. They just don't care. I contacted them multiple times about what's happening to me. They didn't care. Oh, we don't see anything wrong here. I don't see anything wrong. We're going to get to that in a second here. So, court kleptocracy. Yeah, the witches steal estates and assets. They steal biological real property. They steal jobs. And of course, I mean, the grand plan is to basically steal your life from you. How do you think I live with no money? Crime of fraud over $5,000 is subject to a maximum of 14 years in prison, which is documented in Section 380 of the Criminal Code of Canada, which reads, everyone who, by deceit, falsehood, or other fraudulent means, whether or not it is a false pretense within the meaning of this act, defrauds the public or any person, well, not a fucking person. A person is a thing. You get me? Whether ascertained or not, of any property, money, or valuable security, or any service, is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 14 years, where the subject matter of the offense is a testamentary instrument or the value of the subject matter of the offense exceeds $5,000, or is guilty of an indictable offense and is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years. Now, as I read this, it's fucking the stupidest thing I've ever read. It really is. This is why you just got to stick with the Ten Commandments. Because the Ten Commandments are law and justice. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. It's not complicated. This is fucking stupid, this crap that they write. Of course, these are not people that are writing this stuff, eh? So the common law tort of invasion of privacy, right? Because as soon as they put the house up for sale, my privacy was being violated constantly. Constantly. Because they had, and I knew what they were doing. So here's a letter I wrote Sunday, November 17th, 2019. So I'm saying to the real estate agent, who's Brad Walker of Jones Co Realty, Bradley Walker and Jay Yoon of Jones Co Realty, joined their hooves with the hooves of the Savages and Kamloops to steal my house from me so they could all feast off of my inheritance. Every person fraudulently attempting to sell or buy Victoria's domicile must be provided with full disclosure of the indictable crimes they will be committing. So PDF fraudulent foreclosure must be read and understood by both sellers and buyers of property that is not lawfully up for sale. So you've got on Sunday, November 17th, before this shit show gets started, I'm letting Bradley Walker know that you have to, by law, by your own real estate rules, you have to disclose. You have to disclose, puke, or you're going to jail. So when I said that, Daniel Carroll turned around and he threatened me. He threatened me. I was threatened with violence by Daniel Carroll for trying to fight for my life and fight for my property. So this is November 26, 2019. So I'm sending a text message to the Asian that I used to date. And so Asian Abominations, Gowan Lee, had to be notified by Sewer Rat Brad Walker, my property is not for sale as directed, but the greedy puke only saw the easy bags of money for aiding and abetting these greedy liars and laundering $750,000 via fraudulent foreclosure. So as you can see, what's happening at 2:41 p.m. on November 26, 2019 is these two Asians are inside my house. They're inside my house. I stayed in my house every time it was shown. Yep, I stayed there to make whoever was coming through my house as uncomfortable as possible. So I'm not lying about any of this. I'm sorry, I'm not a liar. So let's look at the sale date here, November 28th. So these two Asians go through my house the afternoon of November 26th, and my house has been fraudulently sold November 28th, 2 days later, to these two Asians who needed to launder $750,000. Criminals and practicing witches acting as Fulton & Company and Jones Company Realty. Sorry, that's a typo there. It should say realty, not reality. Intentionally refused to disclose my home was stolen end of November. So what was happening was they kept showing my house after it was sold. So after November 28th, that house was shown at least 8 more times. But they all knew it was already sold. So why are they still showing the house? And not only that, they never let me know. They didn't let me know that it was sold. They refused to disclose that my house had been sold by the first two Asians who looked at it, because they were looking for a place to launder money, and so a foreclosure is perfect for them. So these are the two criminals. This is Bradley Walker and Jay Yoon. These two pukes were inside my house, disturbing my peace, committing an act of war and genocide against me so they could make filthy lucre, because it's all about the filthy lucre for these savage real estate agents in BC. Sick and twisted real estate maggot showing off my inherited homestead is equivalent to gang rape upon me as intended by Daniel Carroll, each showing a gross violation of my right to privacy, of paramount importance to the peace and safety of, I have an INFJ personality type. If you don't know about personality types, go look up the INFJ personality type. It is the rarest. About 1 to 3% of the world have that personality type. Before and after each assault, although they were calling a showing, I was so offended it triggered me to experience irreparable distress, humiliation, and anguish, like being poisoned physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, debilitated as I remained from yet another act of hate, persecution, and genocide. Again, it's the racketeers of the Law Society of British Columbia in cooperation with the Lawless Synagogue of Satan, Provincial Court of BC, known to the pure-blooded, honorable, peculiar people as Horror's Cursed Court of Rico Corruption. That's their actual name. Horror's Cursed Court of Rico Corruption. That's what the Provincial Court of BC actually is named. Yeah. Why real estate agents are scum. Real estate agents were trusted by only about 30% of respondents. Now, why would that be? Why would that be? Well, because they're fucking scuzbags. So after my son was kidnapped and chosen to be trafficked to pedophiles, I became basically an expert researcher on what's going on here pertaining to government corruption and court corruption. So as I was researching, I found something which is absolutely true. A common secret interest of all these groups, all these public service agencies, one that is well known among elite circles is ancient Masonic worship, involving ritual, torture, pedophilia, and sacrifice. They worship Satan. Yeah, damn rights they do. Yet on the outside they pose as religious and political leaders, actors, musicians, New Agers, justices, attorney generals, premiers, MLAs, MPs, against the very crimes that they commit. A squeaky clean image must be maintained, even a public one, as to not arouse suspicion in the community. But the root of that deception goes deeper, and Satanism, which is the official religion of Canada and the official religion of British Columbia, everything is reversed. If they are animal activists, they are likely the animal abusers. If they say they love children, then they likely abuse children. That's how they operate. Up is down, war is peace, black is white. You understand that? Start researching Aleister Crowley. Start researching the law of reversal. I have to be an expert on the occult. I have to be an expert on the occult. I have to be. Otherwise, how am I going to fight evil if I don't know what evil is? If a RICO coven are against money laundering, they are guilty of money laundering, such as proven by witches acting as the Lawless Society of BC, who wrote the following lies on its useless Smoke and Mirrors website. So if you hit that link, because I'm going to post this PSA underneath the video, if you hit that link, you're going to read some of the stupidest crap you've ever read in your life. Because look at this letter sent to me on December 31st, 2019, of which no agent acting as the Lawless Society of BC signed. They refused to sign their names. And look at how many times I've let them know I'm being murdered. December 4th, December 8th, December 11th, December 12th, December 18th. I'm continually saying, listen, there's something wrong here. There's something happening to me, and it's going to cost me my life. Do they care? Fuck no. You should read this letter. Read this letter. There's nothing in your correspondence which raises concerns about the conduct of a lawyer. That's called satanic ritual abuse. That's called gaslighting. No unfit for public service satanic skank acting as the Lawless Society of BC signed this ritual abuse letter. No useless pig, I will not seek a witch for wicked counsel, as it's obvious you demons all seek to suck off Rico genocide, criminal murderer, compulsive liar, perjurer, fraud, and witch Daniel Carroll's cursed cock. Because I tell you what, you know, it's always a push for services. Every fucking time you write a letter or you talk to one of these fucking animals, it's always the same fucking song and dance. Yeah. Have you thought Diego Castro? Have you thought the No cunts. No cocks. I will not talk to a fucking liar. I know more about the fucking legal system than you fucking pigs, pukes, and dogs ever will, so I don't need to go talk to a fucking liar. A fucking extortionist, a fucking racketeer. I don't need to talk to them, thanks. I've talked to enough of them to know who they all are and what the fuck they all are. So underneath that, there's a YouTube post. Me calling Daniel Carroll, leaving Daniel Carroll a message. Each of you guilty as accused criminals expect to be arrested post-haste. Jail time and heavy fines follow. Be aware fines are not payable to the racketeering slimy solicitors, slimy sorcerers acting as the provincial court of BC, government of BC. The fines are payable to the victim of your indictable crimes. You get that, don't you? Do you understand me? That's how fucking sick that fucking just us system is. So hold on here. The criminal pays the criminals the fine? Oh, fuck, I don't fucking think so. The fine is payable to the victim of the crime, not to the coven of corruption. Not to the coven of corruption. I don't think so. Do you understand? So glad vile, racist, lawless, slimy snakes decided not to cooperate. Once the trespassers have been arrested, I will take immediate possession of my stolen real estate security, and trespassers will lose their personal chattel as repeatedly warned. I'm warning them all the time what's happening. I'm letting them know what's coming before it's coming. I am ordained, trained, expert, special prosecutor of all enemies of the king and his peculiar people. I am sent down from above, right? And listen, you gotta believe the science. If you don't believe me, you have to believe the science. It's scientists who claim Rh-negative blood has no earthly origin. That's a claim scientists are making, that Rh-negative blood has no earthly origin. So why would my brother tell y'all that he's from above? I want you to know that the Levite priests all have Rh-negative blood. Moses has Rh-negative blood. My brother has Rh-negative blood. I have Rh-negative blood. Coincidence? No such thing. No such fucking thing as coincidence, I'm afraid. So obviously I'm making a special appearance from a foreign jurisdiction to judge the wicked of this generation. Any questions? No, I keep doing that because I know that the wicked don't understand. The wicked understand nothing because the wicked are already dead. So what do the dead understand? You know why they're called wicked? You know why they're called dead? Their eyes are blind and their ears are deaf. I'm not joking. I'm not joking you. Do any of the cursed, no hope, no future evildoers being named and shaped understand? Get this fucking tweet from these pukes acting as BCNDP. Money launderers and fraudsters, watch out. Thanks to the BCNDP government. No such thing, pukes. They're just a bunch of fucking mindless fucking monkeys pretending to be the BCNDP government. The BC Securities Commission now has the strongest enforcement powers in Canada. Really, who gave you that power? You have no delegated authority. None. 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 Oh, this is one more step we're taking to show fraudsters there are consequences to breaking the rules in British Columbia, says Finance Minister Carol James. Oh, fuck. What a bunch of fucking pukes. Just useless fucking pukes. Smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors. How many of these fucking Asians have been fucking criminally charged with money laundering? None of them. None of them. Not a fucking one. Right? So what do these fucking animals acting as BC Attorney Generals do all day? What do they do all day for their 6-figure paycheck? Because I know what they do. They do absolutely fucking nothing. That's what they do. So, of course, I'm trying to stop this, I'm trying to stop this. So in 2019, I'm like, okay, that's it. Every single witch who has attacked me, stolen anything from me, hurt or harmed me or mine, you're all going down at the same time. And by the way, this is according to their own rules, that you can write up a claim of action like this. It's according to their own rules. You don't think I had to go study their own rules before I wrote this? You don't think I didn't go and study other claims of action that had gone into the court before I wrote this? Of course I did. Of course I did. You think I'm fucking stupid? No, not even close. But I'm not the same woman I am today that you're listening to, that I was then in 2019. I'm not that same woman. I'm one of the living. We are growing all the time. We are learning all the time. All the time. So there's no way now, if I wrote this now, that I would ever bring it under the Canadian Human Rights Act, because I am not a human. I would definitely bring it under the Way, the Truth, and the Life. I have to bring it under the Crimes Against Peculiar People and War Crimes Act, and I have to utilize the Canadian Multiculturalism Act. I have to, because those are what's applying to this situation. That's exactly what's applying here. So as we can see, I paid money for service, and I wasn't served at all. No, wasn't served at all. No. Okay, so I want to show you, I paid for the trial transcript, and I want to show you exactly what I was telling you before, that they redact what they don't want you to hear them saying. They take it out. So this is, let's see here, we've got Miss LeBlanc, right? And we've got this thing called Neely. Yeah. And let me show you. Can you read this? Let's see what's happening here. So she's going in there to steal the house, right? Knowing full well she's stealing the house, knowing full well what their legal rules are. Because when they put their petition into the court, Fulton and Company, they blacked out the will. They blacked it out in its entirety, so you couldn't see it. Yeah, they blacked it out. I have the proof. So let's see here. I do have a draft order that's been vetted, if I may pass that up. Your Honor. I also wish to advise that what? It's redacted. My principal, right? So she's an agent for CIBC. So the principal is CIBC. Along with the real estate agent was filed, and then it's all blacked out, it's all redacted, or was served with a notice of civil claim in response to this application. The claim appears to be one which is, again, it's all blacked out, right? If they've redacted it all. Why? What is the conversation going on between these two witches? Because it's an obstruction of justice to pull out what you don't want anybody to hear you saying to each other. The claim appears to be one which is, it's posted on Bible Hub. So right there, they have a problem with my native language, and you can hear this thing having they have a problem with the native language of my people. They have a problem with it. Yet, the native language of my people sits on the witness box of the whorehouse, trying to pass itself off as a courthouse. So what's the problem here? And for the most part, doesn't have a cause of action. But I just wish to draw your Honor's attention to it. Wow, really? Well, first of all, skank, how the fuck do you know? It's very much a cause of action. It's very much a cause of action. And you're a liar. And you're a fucking liar. An absolute compulsive liar, Lindsay LeBlanc. And Lindsay LeBlanc, you're going to jail. Lindsay LeBlanc. Can you fucking imagine? Can you imagine that going down? Seriously. Once I filed notice of civil claim January 6, 2020 against witches named guilty in acts of war and genocide against me and mine, the persecuted peculiar people, these satanic savages become beyond contemptible, shameless and violent, as I knew the covenant's plan was to steal my house, most of my personal chattel, embezzle the entire estate in order to murder me because I'm not dealing with righteous people. No. I'm dealing with demons, soulless savages with no hope or future, clear and present danger to sound society, lawless, refuse to follow their own legal rules, as do as thou wilt is the whole of the law for these covens. The rule of law is corruption for these contaminated, arrogant abominations, cursed clowns acting as BC Provincial Court and friends. Yeah. Let's take a look at this thing here. January 14th, 2020, I was violently, viciously attacked by this clear and present danger to stable society, unfit for service savage. I was seeking civil damages from a rape assailant who had defiled and violated me when I was 16, but no, this beast admitted he had no knowledge of the subject matter of the claim, as it openly spoke on the record to not have that kind of time. I was demeaned, ran in a circle, abused, slandered, and basically raped by this witch, in full cooperation of the rapist and the liar's rapist. Hard to defend his unforgivable crimes against me when I was an innocent young woman, a child. The rancid racist ordered the rapist liar to attend the payment hearing without me being present, as I was now ordered to pay the rapist's court costs. Shameless satanic sewer rat with a history of criminal behavior, as it falsely believes it is above the law, being it's a member of the Brotherhood of Pure Bullshit. Take a look at that thing. Just disgusting. As soon as I filed the January 6, 2020 civil claim of action, all these BC bar member witches read the matter, thus acted accordingly from that date forward to steal and violently rob everything from me, as well as obstruct justice, as the plan is to murder me for having the nerve to fight for a legitimate public service, my cultural right, the right to access justice where a law and reparations are followed, to hold trespassers to account and to make victims whole. Righteous leadership never allows lawlessness and injustice to rule and reign, yet that is the foundation of these alleged public services that are not public services at all. No, law courts are private for-profit RICO corporations where truth and common sense are no defense. To speak to a bar member is to speak to a toxic root with toxic fruit, where the focus is the demon mammon and justice is denied. No love for truth, no love for their neighbor. Just out of control, heathen hamster wheel of uselessness to rack up those billable hours for the Brotherhood of Bullshitters acting as the lawless society of BC. Well, here's court paperwork. This is them stealing my house. And here's the BC Real Estate Association website. The court found that under the Act, a mortgage granted by a person who obtained their title by fraud or forgery is invalid, and the Act preserves the term, it's a Latin term, which means no one can give what he does not have with respect to charges. So even where a mortgage has relied on the registered title and dealt bona fide with a non-fictitious registered owner, a mortgagee does not acquire any estate or interest in the lands on registration of their mortgages, where they have been granted by a person who had no valid interest in the lands, and such mortgages are void. The decision confirmed the security of fee simple title to land, while increasing the burden on mortgagees to carry out more fulsome due diligence with respect to their borrowers. So again, there's more proof that I'm going home, because these matters have been dealt with before. My house being stolen has been dealt with before, right? The action should have never got going in the beginning. And so anyway, remember earlier we were talking about they sold my house on November 28th, 2019. On January 15th, there was a knock on my door, and it was this satanic savage, Bradley Walker, standing there with a smirk on its face, taking the for sale sign off my stolen property, and this savage handed me this letter. Let me read it to you. As you are aware, we are the solicitors, the slimy solicitors for CIBC. On January 15th, the Supreme Court of British Columbia approved the sale of the subject property to these two fucking nations with a completion date of January 30th. So do you realize I've been given 2 weeks to leave a house I've lived in for 17 years, and they've not handed me a dime to move? No one will help me financially. No one will help me. I've been rapping on every door. I've been going everywhere asking for help. I've sent thousands and thousands and thousands of letters out. Nothing. Fucking stonewalled completely and entirely. The order approving sale directs that you deliver up vacant possession of the subject property on the completion date. Failure to do so will result in the issuance of a writ of possession, which will direct the court bailiff to remove you and your personal belongings from the subject property and to seize a sufficient amount of your personal property to pay for the costs of doing so. So I have to pay for their crime against me. And by the way, this letter is filled with indictable crime. This letter is filled with Daniel Carroll committing indictable crime against me. That's what you're reading. And he signed it. This is proof. And yet, according to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right? Everyone has the right to life, liberty. See, this is all just fucking garbage that they write down. They don't follow any of this shit. So money laundering criminals, these two fucking Asians, are unable to claim ignorance of crime and civil damages due to the truth. Real estate criminals Bradley Walker and Jay Yoon of Rico Jonesco Real Estate Inc. were notified November the 17th, and I showed you the letter. Any unlawful buyer of the land and premises had to be informed via email, because I need proof of service, right? I need proof of service. The sale would be null and void due to fraud, as I am the lawful and legal owner of that property granted to me by my spouse. And those are the legal rules. And then, of course, again, what I'm trying to say is that matters identical to my matter have already run through the whorehouse. Other individuals have been victimized by the same kinds of crime I'm being victimized by. So that's what you're reading here. Ownership protection, right? So I'm at the second paragraph now. Unfortunately for male and female humans, monsters involved in the outright theft of protected, untouchable trust assets, land and premises held by survivorship rights legally defined as war crimes, another act of genocide with the cooperation of not judicially immune, corrupt BC Supreme Court joker justices. The Supreme Court of Canada agrees with my logic. The woman appointed as counsel for the King of Kings speaking the truth in this matter. Obviously, fraud unravels everything. Of course it does. Yep. And then, of course, there's maxim of law. Things invalid from the beginning cannot be made valid by subsequent act. They can't continue to fucking sell that fucking house. That's my house. And yet that's what they're doing. And so they're all committing indictable crime. And nobody fucking cares. So a thing void from the beginning does not become valid by lapse of time. So these two fucking animals, this Benjamin Howe and Sandra Dennis, continuing to use my stolen property obtained by the commission of crime to make themselves money. They're going to jail. They're going to fucking jail. So this is a doctor here in British Columbia who was going around, trying to warn people about, the Capri Sun jab. So, him and somebody else were violently, viciously attacked by the pigs here acting as our CMP. So he went and he tried to get justice, right? He tried to lay a private information against these so-called doctors who were abusing this individual, and he got violently attacked in a Vancouver courtroom to the point where he had been slapped and his glasses flew off. So what you have to know is I've been researching the corruption here in British Columbia since 2009. It's a lot of years I've been researching the corruption here. And so it is actually the truth. It was posted on Huffington Post. Canada boasts the most corrupt judiciary in the world, as all its justices are practicing witches, pimps, perverts, and pedophiles. See Criminal Code of Canada, Section 170 for proof. Canada has legalized and promotes incest and pedophilia, because it does. It absolutely does. And I'll do a video proving that. I can prove it to you. I don't speak unless I have proof. I have to be blameless. So necromancy, there's a YouTube channel called Servant King, and this individual explains very well that these judicial whores are using necromancy, bringing the dead to life, and witchcraft, which is further proof that it's a satanic religious ceremony. That's exactly what I entered into every time I went in there fighting for my baby, and then later fighting for my home and my life. So all bar members are priests of Baal. Now, you have to go research Baal. You have to go research Jeremiah and Baal priests. And it's true that all bar members are guilty of racketeering. So arrogance is the ugliest thing a witch can wear. Arrogance in black, always black. Look at here. What are they wearing? What are they wearing? When you go into the whorehouse, what are they wearing? What do they show up in? when they walk up those 3 steps to that satanic altar that they sit on. You know, I've been in there. You know why? You know why I have to go in there? Do you know why? I do. The King of Kings is building a case against the covens. And so he needs a witness. He needs a Levite priest with eyes that see inside the whorehouse, witnessing what's going on. Do you have any idea how many times I've been inside that whorehouse, listening to what's happening, seeing what's happening? Hundreds. I've been in there hundreds of times as a witness for the King of Kings, because the king is building a case against every single one of these satanic savages. And by the way, a lawyer is nothing more than a racketeer. A racketeer. So a judge is not the court, which is acting as justice. So that's what they call them here in Canada. They're not the court. They're not. And by the way, British accredited registration. So it doesn't matter if it's a United States bar member or a Canadian bar member. They all are foreign agents. They all belong to the British accredited registration. And I have seen U.S. cases cited in Canadian cases. I have seen that. I have seen that. So that's why I use what I use, right? A judge is not the court. Courts have repeatedly ruled that judges have no immunity for their criminal acts, right? Exactly. You don't. The fuck do you think you are? Subject matter jurisdiction. They didn't have it. If there's a contract in place and the contract is crystal clear, the court would have no subject matter jurisdiction, and it never had it when it stole my home. It never had it. Couldn't have it. That's why they blacked out the will when they first put their petition in. So check this thing out. And by the way, this is the attitude of every single one of these satanic savages acting as a justice in Canada. I don't need evidence. Calgary Judge David Gates claims. Excuse me, Puke, what did you just say? You don't need any evidence? Really? Really? Yeah, okay. Okay. Uh-huh. Every individual is equal before and under the law and has the right to equal protection and benefit of the law without discrimination. Isn't that interesting? Now, I want you to see the face of this thing right here. This is the first witch I saw. Daniel Carroll and this witch right here went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm standing there, and the lies are just fucking wiping me out, eh? Wiping me out. I'm the one who's placed a petition into the court, and yet witch Daniel Carroll was the one to speak first. That right there is against the rules. And then when it was my turn to speak, I was spun in a circle, told I was lying, made to feel like I didn't know what I was talking about. And this thing here is the one who looks at me and goes, and I said to him, well, you're asking me to leave a home I've lived in for 17 years, and I don't have any money to do so. Because now you've just claimed that you're going to pay the entire estate into the court. So what am I supposed to do? I can't do what you're asking me to do. And this fucking puke looks at me and he goes, no, Miss Nevins, there's money there. You dig a little deeper. Dig a little deeper? There's money there? No, puke, there isn't, because you pukes are about to steal it all. You're going to steal it all, and then after you steal it all, you're never going to give me any of it. And I'll prove that to you shortly here. Yeah, you need to look at the face of this thing and remember, this is an Asian. Right? And who had illegal possession of my home? Asians. That's called racism. That's called discrimination. That's called partiality, and it's called bias. That's illegal. Illegal. And this thing has no judicial immunity at all. So at one point I say to this thing, they've blacked out the will when they put their petition in. And of course, now Daniel Carroll has come in here with a 5-pound binder of bullshit. 5-pound binder of bullshit. Right? Bring it into the court. Right? So I say to this fucking Masahara, I'm like, they've blacked out the will in the first petition. But of course, he's not looking at the first petition. He's looking at the petition that's going through the court now, and it's not blacked out. And he's like, well, it's not blacked out. It's not blacked out. You know, just fucking lies, 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 fucking lies. Because remember, they're all friends. And remember, the decision has already been made before you speak one word. Before you speak one word, they've already made up their minds what they're about to do to you. Well, you're not totally useless. You could be used as a bad example. Let's see here. Let's look at... Oh, I got to see Witch Catherine Murray. I got to see Witch Jennifer Power. And I got to see Witch Robert Punnett multiple times. Yeah, sure did. Oh, look, here's this Witch Jennifer Power. And here's Witch Cox Taylor Lindsay LeBlanc. Yeah, they have faces, these witches. Aren't they cute? Here's Witch. Here's the mindless maggot C. Murray. Oh, and here's its partner in crime, Emily Bailey. So during this hearing, this witch here, this, what's this thing's name here? Catherine Murray says to Emily Bailey, because I'm fighting for an injunction, right? I'm like, there's issues to try here. If you do this to me, there's no amount of money that can ever compensate me for the damages you're about to do to me. So this witch, she's like, well, Miss Bailey, is there any reason why we should grant Miss Nevins her injunction? And of course, fucking Emily Bailey, well, she doesn't know what to say to that, right? There was silence for a long time. And Emily Bailey's like, no. She didn't know what to say. And then I said to this skank, I said, well, I can't do what you're asking me to do. I've been given no money. Like, you've now sold my home, and now you've stolen all the money, and so I need money to relocate. I need money to get storage people. Like, I need money to get movers and help, and fuck no. No. So she says to Emily Bailey, well, you go call Daniel Carroll and you find out if Daniel Carroll's going to release some money to Miss Nevins, because at this point we've now been told that Daniel Carroll has embezzled the $750,000 from me. That's who's got the money. And it's never been paid anywhere else. Daniel Carroll stole it all. So Emily Bailey leaves the room, which you can't do. That call had to be made on the record. It goes outside, it calls the witch Daniel Carroll, and Daniel Carroll says, no, we're not going to give her a dime. We hate her, we want her dead, so we're going to force her into suicide because we hate her so much. So, of course, Emily Bailey comes back in, and she's like, yeah, no money. So we leave the courtroom, and I fucking start to go nuts on this witch, and you know what happened to me? I got violently, viciously attacked by a BC sheriff for saying something to this witch Emily Bailey in the hallway. This BC sheriff just witnessed an act of genocide, and instead of helping me, this witch attacks me because I have to say something to this witch Emily Bailey. Yeah. See? And by the way, I don't give false testimony. I'm telling you exactly what happened to me. Satanic Provincial Court, insanity and proof these so-called public servants are blatantly unfit for service of any kind, clear and present danger, beyond disgusting, beyond contemptible, beyond assistance, beyond perverted, arrogant abominations, beyond hope is plainly seen here. Now, I need you to go into that website, and I need you to read what happens in the whorehouses here in BC, and how they destroy others. So, like, I fought for an injunction, right? And they wouldn't let me speak. They wouldn't let me speak, and because there was no time left, they made sure that they wouldn't allow me any court time. They made sure of it, and that's what this letter is about here. So, the first time I tried for an injunction, I got to see this witch named Johnston. And this witch Johnston wouldn't allow me any time to speak. So they did it on purpose to me. Then the witch says, well, you'll have to go reschedule more time. Okay, so I've been given no instructions. I don't know what to do. I'm not on fucking procedure because it's just a heathen hamster wheel to fucking go nowhere, get nothing done. So these two witches, Bailey and LeBlanc, go down to the court hearing scheduling without me present. They have my phone number. They have my email address. They could have contacted me by a text message. They could have contacted me by email and said, okay, we're here. We need you here because I'm in the building. I'm in the fucking building. to schedule this continuance of the hearing. They don't. They don't, and they do it on purpose. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what you're reading here, and then you'll read my response, and I'm not going to read it because I'm getting tired of this, and I need to get off of here because I'm getting really upset. Yeah, and by the way, when I write this letter, I'm still not completely aware of what's going on, so when I say things like, none of this persecution, racism, and attempted murder was necessary if Don Lynch or Dominic Alford had done their jobs properly when I requested their legal services after Jack passed. Mr. Lynch and Miss Alford are guilty of negligence, as both knew the bank was foreclosing. Both read Jack's will and should have known the law to inform me of my right to survivorship of the property, which is clearly written in Jack's will. Mr. Lynch and Miss Alford should have instructed me of the following: as surviving spouse, I have the right to the estate's as the personal representative to hold the property in trust for the remainder of my life. Well, I said something here about the house goes into the trust, but the house is in trust already. But here's the other problem. In British Columbia, common law spouses have exactly the same rights as married persons. So the house doesn't even make up part of the estate. The house passes outside the estate. The house isn't part of the estate. The house passes from my spouse to me. And I decide what names go on the title. So the house isn't even part of the trust. So how have they attached the house to the estate when those are against the legal rules? The legal rules are crystal clear. I didn't write the legal rules. I didn't write any of that fucking witchcraft, but I do know it. I do know it because I had to learn it. I had to go learn it all. So after they've stolen everything from me, and they've paid the money into court, which is in May, I apply for an emergency hearing to have the money released. And this witch here, this Francesca Marzi, comes back with, well, no. You have to have the slimy fucking snake solicitors from CIBC present at this hearing, and you also need the other two beneficiaries at the hearing. Excuse me, which what? What legal rules are you fucking utilizing to lie to my face so I can't come get my money? So I asked those questions. The witch wouldn't answer. And this witch has a history of ugliness that's recorded. And that's why it's ugly faces here. And it's been exposed as the witch that it is. It's an indictable crime-committing criminal. And then, of course, there's Robert Punnett, who then I went in again after that witch told me I couldn't go get my money. And so I'm like, okay, fine. So according to the legal rules, because my spouse and I were tenants in common, 50% of the house is mine. So I went in and I applied for 50% of the proceeds of the crime, which would be about $350,000. And once again, I was told to go fuck myself by Robert Punnett, the compulsive lying puke, who ran me in a circle, practiced legal witchcraft from the bench, and asked me if I'd talk to a liar. Miss Nevins, have you talked to a liar? Yeah, puke, I'm talking to one right now. You're a fucking liar, and I'm talking to you, and you all talk the same fucking language. You all talk the same fucking language. And I'm here telling the truth. I'm here with the legal rules, and you're telling me no? Yeah, murderer. Fucking murderer. Rotten Root Robert Punnett was involved January 21 in the destruction of justice and reparations due my family regarding BC Supreme Court file number 20-00036. That was the claim of action I showed you previously that I filed against all these witches. When the arrogant abomination joined hooves with witches Joni Van Camp and Rebecca Watmott et al. To violate my right to access justice, as the dead have no fear of death, being these arrogant abominations are already dead, therefore contaminated, perverted, toxic, and poisonous. Unforgivable. Yeah. Yep, that's right. And so now we're back to money laundering, right? Because you've got all these witches pretending to be against money laundering, and that's just an out-and-out lie. Out-and-out lie. David Eby could care less that there's money laundering going on in the province. Could care less. And this Brock Martland here, I contacted this savage before they had finished the Cullen inquiry, and I said, we just had another act of money laundering going on through a fraudulent BC real estate transaction. Let's look and see here what this fucking thing had to say to me now. Here's the letter I sent. Here's the letter that I sent. This is on May the 10th. Now, they've extended the timeline, the deadline for the Cullen inquiry report, right? So I'm like, okay, I got a problem here. I've contacted everybody and no one will help me. And look at the letter I got back from this witch, Brock Martland. Dear Miss Nevins, did you get my voicemail message? Our commission is near the end of its mandate, so I do not see that we are in a position to assist. Regretfully, yeah. We wish you well in addressing your situation. Well, Peaky just committed a myriad of indictable crime, including obstruction of justice and fraud. Yeah, you're a fucking fraud. You're a useless piece of fucking shit that does nothing all day, every day for your fucking paycheck. And that Cullen inquiry was a fucking waste of taxpayer dollars. So now we need to talk about a few things here, because I need to share some truth with you about these satanic cults that are trying to pass themselves off as public service agencies. Now, when you go onto the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, you're going to find Canada listed as a business. You're also going to find every provincial government listed as a business. These are private for-profit fucking RICO corporations. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yep, I'm afraid so. So here's Canada here. And then, of course, Canada's not a public service agency. It's not. It's a private for-profit Ponzi scheme, RICO shame of proven murder, theft, and destruction. Canadian residential schools and government child protection. So I'll let you go through that. Refusing to acknowledge witches, slimy satanic snakes, incapable of speaking the truth, acting as politicians, and its covens operating under the guise of BC Liberals, BC NDP, etc., are selling off all valuable assets in British Columbia, proves how far secular society's blind eyes and deaf ears, heads are lodged up its Satan-serving, Satan-worshipping asses, as the proof is everywhere. Wakey, soulless satanic savages. Like, seriously. So here's some proof here from Global News. The BC Liberals sold gobs of land for $500 million. 3 years later, it's close to worth $1 billion. No such thing as BC Liberals, and there aren't. There's just covens of witches who pretend to be that coven. It's a criminal organization. Don't think they sell shit off all the time? So how much of Canada is foreign owned? Tons of it. Tons of it's owned by foreigners. What Canadian resources does China own? Well, there's your answer right there. Remember, I'm the woman who takes all the puzzle pieces and puts together the picture for you, because I know that the public is incapable of doing that. Which Canadian bank does China own? Bank of Montreal. Why Chinese buy property in Canada? Oh, you go ahead and read it. Does China own land in Canada? Yeah. Yeah, a third of Vancouver, BC real estate, is owned by Asians. Yeah. So in 2020, British Columbia's provincial government had a revenue of around $64 billion. How are they doing that? How are they doing that? This province boasts the worst poverty rate in Canada, but they're yanking in $34 billion every year. How are they doing that? It's called racketeering. So if you go onto this BitChute page and you listen to the conversations, there's a claim that's been made that earlier in the year, because I just showed you that the province of British Columbia is a private for-profit business. It's a private for-profit business. It's a $64 billion a year private for-profit business. That business was sold earlier in the year to China. And here is the China World Commodity Center in South Surrey. Yes. And then if you go to this website here, Chinese police training BC espionage risk critics say Glacier investigate. So are you not seeing what's happening here? And then of course we have David Icke, right? He's claiming that China's taking over the world. Do you not see what's happening? Are you fucking serious? You can't see what's going on here? Well, have you managed to keep up so far? I'm a woman of understanding, knowledge, sound counsel, wisdom, and truth, who speaks and knows the truth, which is why the wicked are incapable of understanding what I say is written. Daniel 12:10, many shall be refined, purified, and tested, but the wicked shall prove wicked. The wicked shall have no understanding. But those with insight, and what that means is, that's referring to the peculiar people, we are the ones with the eyes that see and the ears that hear, shall understand, right? So that's why they become violent, vicious, and ugly towards me. These covens of corruption are seeking to murder me, as documented and proven throughout the decades, right? Because, exactly, right? My life parallels the lives of those who were here before me. When I read through the scriptures, my life parallels the lives of the others in that book. And I'm not referring to false apostle Paul when I say that. You stay away from that liar. So for this reason, I was born. And for this reason, I came into the world to testify to the truth. That's what I do. That's why I'm hated. That's why I'm being murdered. And if you go in, the truth sounds crazy. It's recorded in Hosea, John, to those of the world. Yes, it is. Go look up those scriptures, because I've just explained to you why I'm treated like this, because humans think that I'm crazy when I talk about things that they are incapable of understanding. And now it's all recorded in scripture. All of the truth is recorded in scripture, okay? Do you understand this? My people, my peculiar people, have made the grave, 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 grave error of mating with these humans. A human and a chimpanzee are 96% genetically identical. Identical. Okay? Do you understand this? That's why it says in 2nd Ezra, it says that there shall be confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be off sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. Why do you believe that a human is legally defined as a monster? There is no such thing as coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. Rh positives are men and women. Rh negatives are men and women. The Rh positives are the humans. They're the animals. So that's why I've got here. Rh positive blood contains monkey DNA. Humans are legally defined as monsters because these are not people. They're not men and women. They're male and female creatures. Evolution is fact. This is the planet of the apes. I'm not joking. So humans are of the world. Rh negatives are not. Science is the one that claims Rh negative blood has no earthly origin. They're the ones that claim that. Okay? That's why, listen, there's one thing that you can never take from me, and that's my sense of humor, okay? I've got one of the best sense of humors out there. I have to have, just to fucking stay alive. That's why I've got these memes set up like this. Don't you get this? Jesus is like, fuck you, man. Not my circus, not my fucking monkeys. That's not a joke, though, but it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Yeah, fucking right. It's not my circus, not my monkeys. What the fuck are you motherfuckers? That's why when he's down here, he's calling them names of animals. Don't you get that? That's why he's calling them snakes. That's why he's calling them dogs. That's why he's calling them pigs. You don't think he had eyes that see? And yeah, we see what you are. You open your mouth and we fucking hear what you are. So our cousins, the chimps. So humans share 96% of their genetic material with the chimpanzee. Look at, you can't make this shit up, man. And then that's why in Exodus he says, I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. Why do you think those Egyptians wore the heads of animals? Because they were human. They were hybrids. They weren't fucking people. People are not hybrid. People are not hybrid. People are not human. Do you understand that? You need to understand this stuff. I'm serious. Sorry, I've got a little glitch in the action here. And again, right? Book of Enoch. Book of Enoch. Enoch, thou scribe of righteousness, go declare to the watchers of the heaven, who have left the high heaven, the holy eternal place, and have defiled themselves with females, and have done as the species of the earth do, and have taken unto themselves wives. You have wrought great destruction on the earth, and you shall have no peace nor forgiveness of sin, and inasmuch as they delight themselves in their spawn. The killing of their beloved ones shall they see, and over the destruction of their kid shall they lament, and shall make supplication unto eternity, but mercy and peace shall ye not attain. Now go in and read Deuteronomy 13:6. Go read Ezra 9:14, 10, 2 through 3, and 11. Go read that. Go read it, because you have to understand there's a reason why the King of Kings was asking his peculiar people, men, to send their strange wives away along with their strange spawn. That's exactly what's going on there. I am a student of the scriptures. You understand me? Evolution is fact. Read that. Read it. My body as a woman cannot carry the body of a monster. My body will automatically abort that monster. I'm a woman. I cannot carry a monster. You get me? What does it mean to be Rh negative? Well, there's a D antigen, right? The D antigen stands for devil or dead. Rh, see that D? Negative blood is the result of a simple gene deletion. So, monkey free. Rh negative blood is the blood of men and women. And the majority of the Rh negatives are wicked. I've had quite a bit of interaction with them. I've done a ton of research on Rh negatives. And we're not all the peculiar people. We're not all the peculiar people. The majority of them are wicked. For instance, do you remember the Amityville horror movie based on the DeFeo family? Okay, so Ron DeFeo was the dad in that family, described by many, many, many as a monster. He was described as a monster. He used to beat the crap out of his wife and his kids. Ron DeFeo of Amityville horror fame. Now, when they went into the house, remarkably, for some reason, they tested the Rh status of all the blood and all the individuals in that house. Now, the mom and all the kids had Rh positive blood. Ron DeFeo, described as a monster, was the only one with Rh negative blood, which is why I know that not all Rh negatives are the peculiar people. And there's other examples I have as well of that being the truth. Because again, go into Scripture, read 1 Samuel 2, verse 12, 2 Samuel 23, verse 6, Matthew 13, 41. This is all described to you. This is all described to you throughout the Scriptures, right? Whereas I also said, I will not drive them out from before you, but they shall be as thorns in your sides. Now, this meme right here with the Rh blood group, it was the creator of the meme that put the thorns on the blood platelet. I didn't do that. But when I saw that, knowing as much as I know, I was like, wait a minute. Those are like literal thorns. But the sons of Belial shall be all of them as thorns thrust away, because they cannot be taken with hands. And thorns shall come up in their palaces. That's in Isaiah, Matthew. And some fell among thorns. You get me? Deuteronomy. Talking about scorpions. Well, a scorpion has you know what I mean? It's like a thorn. Tears. A weed. You get me? Okay, so here was somebody made a comment. Again, I do thousands of hours of research so I can come on here and teach you the truth. So you must learn about blood and genetics. It's hard for most individuals to grasp the depth because most or their ancestors have interbred and assimilated with the hybrid Rh positives, and there's a noticeable gap in intelligence between the two. The L-eats that rule over this world know all about blood and genetics, and is why the push for our kids to procreate with the other race. You will never understand the Jew, the Gentile, or the Elite ruling nobility until you learn about blood, and that is the truth. That's why I took a snapshot of that, because I thought, whoa, somebody out there understands. Every once in a while I'll roll across an individual who does have some understanding. So how does the law view you? Well, human being, like, why would they, in a legal dictionary, why would they describe that as a monster? Because they know. Don't think they don't know, okay? Even these effing idiots know. So who and what the fuck taught y'all circus monkeys that you're people? No, if you have Rh positive blood, you're not a member of a people. You are a member of a cursed species of abominations, blind and deaf, demon-like creatures, humans, legally defined for a reason as monsters. Yes. And then there's proof here about Rh negative people. Proof. Remember, 2 or 3 witnesses of the truth establish the truth. You get me? In the law of the living, in the law of life. 2 or 3 witnesses establish the truth. But they have to be truthful witnesses. You get me? That's why I present to you always 2 or 3 witnesses of the truth. Right, so purge the evil from among you. So animals in Canada have no rights. They don't. Right? Animal control services, yeah, fucking rights, yeah. Is it illegal to purge animals in Canada? Well, no, because what the King of Kings is asking his peculiar people to do would be to perform a ritual slaughter. Yes. Do not suffer a witch to live. Why do you think that's written like that? Why? And that's not the only place it's written. 3 different times throughout the Torah, you are commanded to not allow a witch to live. 3 different times. Why? I know the reason. And you better know it too. So only the elect know the truth. Mark 24:24, Mark 13:22, John 10:27 through 28, 1 John 2:26. It's not that the elect can't see what the blind see. It's that the elect, the chosen remnant, can see what the wicked blind ones cannot. And you have to know the truth to see the lie. You have to. That's why I know Paul's not an apostle. Jesus warned us all repeatedly to stay away from the false apostle Paul. And they don't, right? So these creatures, these animals who actually believe that they have delegated authority, where have they gotten that authority from? You see, that's what happens when you're a psychopath, when you're a narcissistic psychopath. That's what happens to you. You become arrogant. Arrogant completely. Proverbs 26:26, their malice may be concealed by deception, but their wickedness will be exposed in the assembly. Matthew 10:26, so do not be afraid of them, for there's nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. Mark 4:22, for whatever is hidden is meant to be disclosed, and whatever is concealed is meant to be brought out into the open. That's why I now say something. After years of staying silent, after years of not saying anything to anybody about what had been done to my son, and myself and our family. And then they came for the house and stole everything from me. Remember, I was kicked out March 2020. We're now almost at the end of 2022. And I've just now started to come out and say something. So toxic and abusive pukes have no intention of resolving conflict, especially if they are given consequences for their behaviors. Pukes instead blame their victims while continuing the abuse by using the silent treatment, dismissing me, ignoring me, and pretending I don't exist, and that's exactly what I'm experiencing right now. If you purposely, continuously provoke someone until they get so angry that they lose it on you, they're not crazy, you're an asshole. Yep. And it's true. It's so true. If you stand with the wicked, you're going to fall with the wicked, and not believing in hell does not make it disappear. Hell is real, folks. Every single prophet throughout those scriptures speak of hell. My brother was the one who came down, and it wasn't coded anymore. When you read through Isaiah and Jeremiah and Ezekiel, they've got it coded, where unless you understand those scriptures, you can't see that they're talking about hell. My brother gets down here and he's like, listen to me right here, right now. Hell is real. Hell is real. And it's going to be the reality for over 94% of those who've been born. Yes, I'm afraid that's true. The cowardly, the unbeliever, the vile, the murderer, the sexually immoral, those practicing magic arts, idolaters, and all liars. Now, who did I just describe? I just described over 94% of the populace. So if you fall into any of those categories, you are going to miss that narrow road. You're going to miss that narrow road. You've missed the way, the truth, and the life. When they're in Egypt, when they're in the world, there's 613 commandments. 6 plus 1 plus 3 equals 10. The King of Kings pulls them out of Egypt. He pulls them out of the world. He's trying to train them in the way, the truth, and the life. And he provides for them 10 commandments. The first 5 are about the king and his law. The first 5 are about the king and his law. Commandment number 5 is to honor your father and your mother. He's not talking about your earthly mom and dad. The King of Kings is telling you the father is him, and the mother, that's the Torah. The Torah is wisdom. She's your mother. And then when my brother gets down here 2,000 years ago, time is running out. And as time gets shorter, we're not trained to speak in parables to you anymore. We're trained to speak to you directly. My brother gets down here and he's speaking about hell more than he's speaking about anything else because he has to sound the warning. He has to sound the trumpet. Because if he doesn't, all those sick monkeys' blood is on his hands. And we can't have that. That's why we warn you. That's why we say something. That's why we stand up and we go, whoa, you're not doing the right thing. Because if I know you're doing the wrong thing and I don't say something, I become culpable of what you're doing. I become guilty by association and by silence, which I cannot do. Which I cannot do as a righteous woman. My brother gets down here and he's like, I'm going to boil it down. I'm going to take the 10 and I'm going to turn it into 2. You got to love the truth more than you love anything else. You got to run hard after it. You got to search hard after it. You got to chase it down and chase it